What would happen if 7 scratchers all worked on one game together, except they couldn't communicate? Well, today we're gonna find out, and we're starting off with Viiper.
I'm Viiper. If you didn't know, I'm the first dev for this challenge. And because I am the first dev, that means that I'm also responsible for creating like the actual like basis for the game, like the game idea, like the basic game plan, you know, everything. So there's a lot of power on my hands, and I could do some really cool things with this. Like I could make like a skibbity toilet game, and like literally everyone would have to abide with the rules. But no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not like that bad of a person. And instead, we are actually going to start making a pretty good game. I actually brainstormed this idea a little bit, and I'm gonna show it to you using this whiteboard behind me. So the game is called Rubble. So in Rubble, you are a mole. I don't know how to draw a mole, so we are just drawing a smiley face. I'll figure that out later, even though I only have 1 hour. And now you're thinking, okay, we have a mole. Like what are we gonna do with the mole? Well, basically, there's gonna be this soil, right? This dirt, this rubble, if you will. See what I did there? Rubble. So the mole is gonna go down into this soil or rubble, and you might be thinking now, so he goes into the rubble, what is he doing? Like seriously, what is he doing? Well, there are gonna be some bugs. A bug here, I don't know what bug that is, just use your imagination. Oh shoot. There we go, nothing happened guys, it did not fall over. Anyways, back on topic. So there's gonna be like bugs, it's gonna be worms. Again, bro. I swear, if this thing falls one more time, I'm actually quitting. Anyways, so you have to get these things, and you have to get them inside the rubble. Now, this wouldn't be fun if all you're doing is literally just grabbing the stuff. So obviously, we're gonna have some challenges. So first of all, we're gonna have a time limit. So as you can see, I drew a clock here. That's our time limit. And we are also gonna have some like obstacles. So maybe we could have like spikes. That's a poorly drawn spike, but like it's like something he has to avoid. And I think that it'd also be cool if we had like these walls, like you know, so like he can't pass through these walls. It's like hard dirt. It's like dirt, but it's like more hard than like the other dirts. So basically, it's like a pick me dirt, because it's like I'm not like the other dirts. You know, it's like I should be ashamed. But yeah, that's the general idea of the game. We've already wasted like 5 minutes just for me explaining this, so we need to start working like right now, like this clock right now. We gotta start working right now. I started off by finding some mole pixel art online. Although I typically make my own art, just use something random from Google for the time being. Pixel art can take an hour in itself, and we do not have that kind of time to waste. The next thing that I did was create some dirt that would act as the ground for the game. I just drew a rectangle in the Scratch editor for the same reasoning as the mole. Now it was time to start coding. I decided to just steal a platforming engine from my game Railroad Runner, and I was able to adjust it to Rubble. Although Rubble wouldn't be a platformer, I used the platforming engine to create this effect that made you sort of jump into the ground. I think it looks really good, and although I probably should have prioritized creating the actual game instead of polish, it's a nice touch. Alright, I'm gonna be honest with all of y'all right now. We have 39 minutes and 37 seconds left. It's a lot of pressure, because there's some things that I need to complete, because we're not going to be communicating, or else the other developers won't know that they need to add them in. I'm feeling a bunch of pressure right now. This 1 hour is going by way too quick. Yeah. Let's do this. However, this took super long, and by the time I was done, I had only around 20 minutes left, so I knew that I had to hurry up. I continued coding by creating a wall that the player cannot pass through. This was a core feature of the game and would help give it more flavor and challenge. But something I noticed was that the collisions were flawed and didn't actually work very well. Sometimes you would clip into it. I was thinking about fixing it, but then decided that I would just let the other 7 devs deal with it, because I still needed to add in a lot of other features. The next thing that I did was create some bugs for the game. Since I'm pretty sure that moles eat bugs, I thought adding them would help add a sense of meaning and purpose to the game. Once again, I didn't care about art, so it looks quite bad. Now, with only around 12 minutes left, I created spikes that the player would have to avoid. They kill you and force you to restart. I spent my remaining minutes adding some finishing touches, and now it was time to pass it on to the next developer, McTonk.
Alright, so Viiper has finished his part, and now it's been passed on to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and download this. Okay, so it looks like this game is called Rubble. I already have amazingly high hopes. Okay, press space to start. Collect as many bugs as you go down. Try not to die. Collect as many. There's one. And now I'm moving up. Bro, what is this? That's not even a bug. Wait, is it supposed to be a snake or like a worm? It's just like Viper's logo. So he didn't make this art. Replace later. After I'd finished checking out the project, it was time for me to start adding to the game. The first thing I tried to add was a path that looked like it was being dug by the mole, but because I have a major skull issue, I decided not to, as I would probably be wasting my entire hour on failing to implement a feature. After I realized that it would probably be stupid to make that unnecessary polish, I went into GIMP to design some title art which could be used in the main menu as opposed to whatever this is. Unfortunately, I couldn't make a thumbnail because all of the sprites basically just had placeholder art, but I just messed around for a bit until I got this is the title. And honestly, despite the fact that it probably only took me like 5 minutes to make, I think it looks pretty good. I really hope that it doesn't immediately get replaced. I began to program in the menu, but because that's probably not the most interesting thing to watch, I'm just gonna skip past most of that. And then I started to make more bugs, because just this isn't really sufficient. Okay, so we have this so far, but it still feels horribly dead in here. It still feels horribly dead in here because there's no music. So let's get some music. Let's see what sounds good.
2,000 years later.
For both the bugs and the spikes, I made them both randomly spawn around the map, and they each have random properties like their size. Well, when we start the game, we're gonna have 25. Let's go ahead and get some bugs. Okay, that's good. This is fun, just drawing the little bugs. After drawing the bugs, I made WASD support, polished some of the game, and added this little area at the end. I don't really know what I was thinking when I was adding this though. Anyways, that's my part, and I'm passing it on to no idea who, so I'm gonna put in editing.
Jackson Academy.
Oh yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alright, see ya.
Now it's my turn. I downloaded the project from McTonk, the previous developer, and it was now time to open up this game and see what kind of monstrosity these developers had created. So when I first opened the project, I was greeted by this incredibly satisfying, and if I'm not gonna lie, over the top main menu. The fact that you had the time to make this, you had nothing else better to do. So hopefully the rest of the game would be as polished as this, right? No. So when I first started playing this, I was genuinely surprised at this original game mechanic. I thought maybe Viiper would create another platformer or Flappy Bird ripoff, but this was actually a great idea. It's basically like only up, but only down. And instead of taking the place of a human, you're playing as a mole that has to mine underground and search for food. At least that's what I thought. The developers before me could have been going for something else. So after a while, I reached somehow the bottom of the world. I'm not sure if this was supposed to be here. I was expecting this kind of game to be an infinite scrolling game, but I reached the bottom of the level, so I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be there or not. So I checked the costumes just to make sure that this wasn't a bug or something, and I don't think it was. I think that I'm going to make this an infinitely scrolling game, just for the heck of it. So after fully checking out the project, I set my timer for 1 hour, and I got to work. So the first thing I wanted to do was add an infinite scrolling background because I just don't want to make levels. Most of my games are infinitely scrolling. It's just way easier to code in. So I went into the player sprite and tried to find the code that was stopping the player at the bottom of the level. Now I'm gonna be completely honest, the code in the player sprite was an absolute mess. There were just so many variables and there's just stuff all over the place. Whoever had the project before me, these guys were literal code goblins, and I had to clean up this whole mess of code and neaten it up and everything. So there was this block right here. I think it was this one that was stopping the player once it reached the bottom of the level. When I deleted it, it didn't do anything for some reason, so I just continued looking for the code that stopped the player at the bottom of the level. 10 minutes later. Yeah, I couldn't figure out why the level was stopping at the bottom, but I got started on the enemies. I don't know if McTonk didn't have enough time or if the level was supposed to be like this, but there were only 10 enemies in the level, so I made a variable to start spawning them infinitely. Because I was recording this video at like 5 in the morning, it was pretty chilly inside, but luckily,
I was wearing my limited edition Jackson Academy Extra Soccer hoodie, made with 100% cotton. It kept me warm for the whole hour.
Now back to the game, I was struggling with this one piece of code. Basically, what I needed to do is detect if the scroll Y was more than the last spawned enemy, then I needed to spawn an enemy. But for some reason, it wasn't working. It had been so long since I had created this code before for one of my games that I was really rusty. Like you can see here, when I pressed the green flag, the game is supposed to run and start spawning some enemies. But it just doesn't spawn at all. Nothing spawns. I don't know why. Maybe it's just me. A couple minutes later, does it work? No. So I switched up some of the code and hopefully this should spawn at the bottom. Okay, there we go. It kind of spawned at the bottom, but then it just disappeared. And I'm not even 10 minutes into the challenge. I still have like 50 minutes left. All right, this should work. Yes, okay, it kind of works. I don't know why I spent so long trying to mess with this enemy code and get it to work. It just didn't want to work. I just dropped down and look how many enemies there are. I cannot get past that. Like, look at this. How does that even work? All right, now we're finally getting somewhere. The enemies are not filling the entire screen. It's not making an impossible level. Now I just need to tackle this. The background does not scroll. So to make the scrolling background, there's only 2 costumes, so I need a 3rd one. Let me tell you, I did not expect that this would take me almost 20 minutes to figure out. It just, the problems kept on piling on, and it wasn't even different problems. It was the same problem where the background would scroll, but the grass would also scroll. And I could tell that the previous developers weren't going for that, because at the start of the game, you start above the ground and then you sort of jump into it. I like that and I want to keep it. All right, so with about 40 minutes left, I think I finally kind of almost 90% fixed it. It works half of the time. Like if I double press the green flag, the grass will appear at the top and then the scrolling background will appear underneath it. If I play the game and then press the green flag once, it doesn't work at all. And I had no idea why this was happening. So after moving around my code, I figured out that it wasn't something wrong with my code, but the code that had already been created by McTonk. The variables weren't resetting properly. So I had to go in and manually reset them. Instead of resetting them inside of a broadcast block, I had to use when green flag clicked. Then with only about 20 minutes left, I started adding some of my ideas to the game. I had this idea of adding jewels to the items that you pick up. So I started drawing some gems like an opal and also a ruby. Now my art skills aren't exactly the best. So for the developers that go after me, they might not have a single clue what I just added, but hopefully the point gets through that these are gems. And since I didn't really have that much time left, I really hope that someone could expand on the idea that you go mining as well as eating bugs. And also, for some odd reason, the scrolling background suddenly decided to break halfway through drawing the gems, so now I have to waste my time again fixing this annoying bug. Now I only had about 10 minutes left, so I pretty was much counting on the fact that the Scratch gods would decide to let the scrolling background work again so that I could finally finish adding some features onto the game. Literally this whole time I've been working on it has been fixing bugs. So of course I was cursed and had to spend nearly all of my time fixing the scrolling background bug. You see, this is why video games take so long to come out. Code that you thought worked just out of the blue randomly decides to break. So with 7 minutes left, I could finally add another essential feature, the game over screen. The developer before me didn't have enough time to create it, or they spent all of it creating an unnecessarily fancy menu screen. So I quickly finished up the game over screen and then ran into another bug. So that's basically all the time that I have. Now that all the bugs are fixed, it's time to pass it on to the next developer, Challenger 10K.
Alright, so it looks like you have to just survive as long as you can, I'm guessing. Oh, you go through and you collect stuff. Alright.
So after playing the project, I found some things that would be easy to improve to make the game better. The first thing is to change this ugly variable score and implement a nice number sprite score. To do that, I watched a Griff patch tutorial because I don't know how to do it myself. After a while of mucking around, I made my own version of the system. Now that the score is looking clean, I added in a sound when you collect a bug, and now it was time to fix too. When you started the game, everything would look fine, but when you got a little bit in, all the bugs would stop spawning, so I located the issue and fixed that. Another issue was the wall. Due to Scratch not letting you scroll things off stage, this was stuck at the top and was really annoying me. To fix this, I added another wall off screen so it could scroll properly. The next thing I wanted to add was a difficulty option. The harder you made the game, the closer together spikes would spawn, making it harder to get past. I got to work on this and added the same sine wave the title had to it. By the time I finished, my time was almost up. There was just one more thing I wanted to add. Sometimes when you started, a spike would spawn right under you, and due to the mole jumping down, it would die in the first second. Quite unfair, so I added a weight block into the spike so this wouldn't happen. Now that was done, my part was finished, and it was time to move it on.
Right, it's my turn. Man o' Valor, but you can call me Mauve. I have the file right here ready, and I have my beautiful 1 hour timer as well. I'm gonna load it in and start my timer. Okay, so the sprite work here is very vector. I hate these. I'm gonna have to redo these. Okay, well, this costume is called replace later, so I'm gonna have to replace it. I'm gonna just get rid of all these blocks that do nothing, because they do nothing. So first I'm gonna improve this player sprite, because it sucks. It's so bad. Let's change the size to 500, shall we? Kill that. I'm basically not gonna change a lot about the game part of this game. I'm just gonna change the sprites, because I am the art guy. And although I can do other stuff, I consider myself good at art. This is not even the song that it uses. Huh? Yeah, so what is this? Get rid of it. That's a lot of space. This isn't even centered. I'm gonna have to resort to press green flag to retry. I'm so sorry, guys. I'll see if I can improve that later. Do I have any good fonts on my computer, or do I need to go grab one? Screwing around with vector paths. Why? I should be spriting the rest of the game. I have to resprite a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna run out of time. I need to resprite this. So many beautiful palettes. I don't know which one to use. I'll try this one called Lost Century, because it has some nice earth colored things, and this is very earth colored because you're on the ground. So now we have a beautiful palette. Oh my gosh, why is this bitmap? It's just a rectangle. It's just a rectangle. Like I said, physical paint. It's sort of like a sunset. I think I'll keep that. I do need to grab that white color, because I just made a bunch of things white. That looks infinite.
Okay.
Oh. I'm giving up on doing pixel art for this. Everything is already vector. Alright. My time is up.
Hello everyone, I'm Spurt and I'm the 6th developer, so without further ado, let's get started. Right, the first thing I did was I opened up the project and I was just looking around to see what it was like. And first impressions are very positive. I really like the music in the background and also the sound effects. I think this looks really cool and I'm super excited to see what I can do. The first improvement I made was adding some nice little clouds in the background. I think that this adds some personality to the game and makes the main menu screen more entertaining. I also added a little bit of parallax to make the clouds look better. The next change I made was to these little spike guys. Right now they don't seem to have much personality. They just look like a piece of wood with some spikes sticking out of them. So I gave them some little eyes and I think they look much better now. I also decided to add more variety to the little gemstones you collect. Since we are not allowed communication on this project, I have no idea what the gems are supposed to be for other than maybe for a score counter. Anyhow, I decided to just copy one of the existing gemstones and paste it in and make some little changes so there's a bit more variety to the types you can find. But as I was playtesting, I realized one major thing that was missing, which were enemies. Sure, there are some little spikes here and there, but they were static. So my big idea here was to add a snake that can move around through the underground and try to hunt you down. So I got to work. Alright, this is not my proudest creation of art, but I think it'll look good enough for a test. And nope, there's definitely a few bugs here. Let me fix that real quick. Alright, this looks much better. Now as you can see, the snake actually moves underground pretty well, and it can make for a more challenging obstacle than just some basic spikes. But unfortunately, my time is almost up. Since we only get 1 hour to work on this, I only have a few minutes left. So I decided to make some final changes. First, I made the snakes spawn differently depending on the difficulty level. So if it was easier difficulty, they'd spawn less often, and if it was a harder difficulty, they'd spawn more. And next, I also made it so that the player's skin would look different depending on what difficulty was selected. This way, it's actually easier for players to see what difficulty they're playing on, and also, it makes it feel a lot more polished and personalized. So that was all my time used up. Here's what I came up with. I personally think it looks very awesome, and I can't wait to see what the next developer can come up with.
I started by opening the game and playing it to see what I was working with. Normal mode. There's snakes and you have to collect things. The music's like really loud. I had an idea to add skins to the game, so I started out by creating these arrows that you can use to choose your skin. Next, I started to design one. I edited the player costume to be the square guy, and also made costumes for each of the difficulty levels like the circle has. Then I made this yellow trapezoid thing. I'm not sure what it is exactly, but I like it. Once the skins were all finished and working, I started brainstorming some ideas of more things to add. The game was practically finished when I got it, so it was a bit challenging to think of something. I decided to make a potion that spawns less frequently than the bugs and gives you 3 points when you collect it. And I'm also gonna make it bigger. Then, since the game is underground, I made a pickaxe that works the same way. That's a pickaxe. Finally, I added unique sound effects to each of them. There were just a few minutes left, so I decided to add the usernames of everyone who worked on the game to the main menu. So that's all the names. 1 minute left in the timer. Is there anything else we can really do here? And with that, the game was finished.
Oh my
This
god.
is what I did. I made skins.
Oh, yo, that's actually kind of cool. That's actually
I
kind
made a
of cool.
square dude, and I made like whatever this guy is.
What?
You don't have to
And they also have all the
Oh,
they
that's
have all the
nice.
difficulties.
Oh, you can change what they
There's easy, normal, and hard.
Yeah, I made
didn't-
the hats change and the facial expressions
yeah,
change.
yeah.
Dude, I was so mad that the character isn't a mole anymore.
I was the one that made the decision to destroy the ball. That's why that guy looks like he's from playing with balls. Oh my
Whoa.
gosh.
What is that?
This is the game.
It's a
Or a
viper.
snake.
It's a huge viper.
It's Viper's
When I got
dad.
this
Is that a Viper reference?
When I got this
There's
game
also these
originally,
pickaxes and potions, which I had.
there was like one bug. It was so bad. I replaced it.
Oh, God, look at it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I made that.
Oh.
I did that. That was like one of my favorite changes. Like where the guys, then the triangle reflections. I like that.
I really like how much the art has changed though.
Yeah,
I like that.
Especially the
Yeah.
spikes.
Like if you just like barely touch it with your hat, I think you also die, right?
No, it has a separate
No, you
hitbox.
do not. It has a separate hitbox.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
Yes,
I-
I know. We're so smart. We thought about this ahead of time.
Also, the thing stopped spawning like 5 minutes ago.
Well, the hat's
I just
completely
realized
separate
that.
from the player, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
no.
wait, we ran out of clones. I think we ran out of clones.
I just
They
realized.
still lose.
No, the clones is at 187.
Oh, wait, what in the world? Yeah,
What is
Still way too many
Probably
clones.
some stupid bug.
So yes, we did have an issue where the bugs would stop spawning, but I did fix that in my version that I posted. Honestly though, we think that the game turned out pretty well for what it is. And if you want to go play the game for yourself, I will have it linked in the description. And if you enjoyed, please subscribe. I'll see ya.